we have gathered to talk about the brilliant film Baksho Bondi or Shadowbox, which has recently been to Berlinale. And I have with me the director duo Tanushree Das and Saumyananda Sahi, and obviously the lead actress Tillotama Shome. And I just want to begin by saying that I'm very fortunate I had the chance to watch the movie and I really liked it. And obviously, as a Bengali, I want to thank you for, making the film totally in the Bengali language and not trying to be multilingual. Obviously, there are some parts where Sundar is speaking, and because he's Pahari, you have that thing there. But I appreciate that. And also, I want to start by asking, especially to Tanushree, like, what was the motive for bringing the story to Bengal? And I know because you have grown up in and around Kolkata, I think. So, was it based on your personal experiences, what you have seen around you, the kind of women you have seen around you? So, how did the story come about?
Well, definitely the women around me, including my mother. And, I always felt that uh, in recent times, at least, we see two different kinds of depiction of Bengal, which is either the aristocracy or this completely imaginative, you know, pro Bollywoodish world, which is not at all
Right.
real, which is not Bengal. People dancing around fountains in Dubai, kind of angle. And then there are these hardcore films which are either to do with the aristocracy or to do with, really poor people struggling. And that sort of thing, but there is a whole middle chunk which I thought, which are called fringe, borderline
Hmm.
fringe people who are actually the mass. So
Right.
I really felt like their story, and especially these women, our mothers, our mashis, our kakimas, our jethimas, who are invisible to the world. Why? Because they look after their family, they give their everything for, for the
Hmm.
betterment of their family, and they're just forgotten. So I just wanted to, tell their story in some ways.
Yeah, that also makes me wonder about the title of the film. So it's like it's kind of an entrapment, but that is the world they are confined in. But also, I would say it's the love and the resilience of someone like Maya. It's not really, she doesn't consider it as a duty to look after family or, protect her husband because he's afflicted with some mental trauma. So it's not like she's trying to be dutiful, but it's an organic feeling that is coming out of what who she is essentially. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
So I think that was very well portrayed. But so my question is, because both you and Soman, you come from different departments in the film industry, and this is your debut directorial, if I'm not wrong.
Yes.
So one of you is a cinematographer, one of you is an editor. So what made you decide to make a film as directors rather than working on a similar script which someone else is making? So maybe someone else you can
Yeah,
Yeah.
so Tanushree first spoke to me about this idea when we were in film school in FTI, and and we began to think of it, but we let it go for many years, and it was only after we became parents that we went back to this idea. That time it was called Mother, and and then we began writing. But for both of us, while our primary identities are of being a cinematographer or an editor. So, but I think the reason with which we came into cinema was to tell stories. And, for example, I really wanted to do sound when I was before I joined FTI, and I couldn't, enter into the sound department because I hadn't done science. So I did cinematography. Earlier, I'd been to the Berlinale Talent Campus as a director for a short film. So um, we even in the way that we work, we do not like to kind of compartmentalize the departments. We all together telling a story, and while my primary livelihood and my primary way of speaking is through the camera, and that's what I do. in this case, it came so organically out of our lives that we found ourselves as directors rather than wanting to shift. And I think for Tanushree also, she came from directing plays. She was a theatre practitioner before. So for us, it wasn't a break away from anything. It kind of grew very organically out of our lives to direct.
Mm-hmm. But was it difficult? Because I mean, these things require different kinds of technical expertise. I'm saying from a layperson point of view, someone who has no exposure to the film industry apart from as an audience. So, you need to develop very different skill sets
Yes.
for doing,
and,
especially
and
maybe the way, like you are kind of an umbrella and everyone is working as part of a team, not I won't say under you, but according to your guidance, more or less. So
But
I
see,
think that
we had this advantage, but because that umbrella is full of me and Somu most of the time, if you look at it
yeah.
technically, because he's the cinematographer, he's the script writer, I'm the editor, and we are both directors. Also, the reason we chose to both of us direct is because, precisely because the story is very personal to me. And
Hmm.
what Somu constantly does is he provides the objectivity. Like even during edit, what was happening is, like, there would be a sequence, and because I'm a Bengali, and I am looking at the scene and I am close to it, I am thinking this is working, but someone would say, no, this is not working, you need to work on this. This idea is not coming out. But because I have the history behind me and the knowledge of the culture, for me the idea is coming out. So, a lot of times we had to negotiate this path, and Somu was the perfect distance from the subject because it is not his culture. So he could always mirror what is missing. So that's why it's a co-direction, because he
Hmm.
actually gave direction when I would lose path due to lack of objectivity with the subject, the story, the culture. So it really worked. And for us also, it's a natural process. Like Somu said, I have been directing plays when I was in college in Gokhale. I worked with Padatik, I worked with theatrician, I worked with a lot of these guys in Bengal. And that was my switch to FTI. I wanted to try out editing because I did my research, and some of the best directors of even India and abroad are incredible editors themselves,
Hmm.
because the editing is a lot of directing, which is in the post. You direct the footage to give what it gives out. So direction is a step forward when you're doing these things, I think. And nowadays you'll see, like, there are actors in India, it's a new concept maybe, but in the world it is not really. And I think even actors make brilliant directors because they understand the most complicated aspect of cinema making, which is acting, actually.
Hmm.
So
That's
now
right.
you're seeing that is also happening.
yeah,
So
but we also faced many surprises where we where we realized that direction is we weren't prepared for all the things that direction throws up, all the
yeah,
challenges. It is a craft of its own, and there were many things that we weren't prepared for, and we had to find our ways to navigate around.
yeah,
So
yeah,
I think that's the beauty of it because it's a constant learning process and you have the flexibility to, do some lateral work in the same industry, but, try your hand at different stuff, which also reminds me how, Konkana Sen Sharma, she has done so many films as an actor, but she has like two directorials and both of them are fantastic. And obviously Tilotama is part of one of them, and I will come to that at some point. The mirror from
she's
Love
part of two
Stories.
of them, no? I think she's part
Oh
of
yeah,
two.
yeah, she's also in both. Yeah, she's also in
Yeah,
the right,
both
right.
of
I
them
was
were
just
great.
going to say, please.
Yeah, it's been a while since I watched that movie. I'm sorry.
Yeah, yeah.
In fact,
Mm.
I have a dirty sinking feeling she's making another one, and this one is not going to have me. So it's a very
Oh,
sore,
Oh,
it's a sore
I
subject.
hope not. I hope not. Yeah, I think some collaborations should keep happening again and again.
yeah, I agree as a viewer. Yeah.
So, yeah, so I also wanted to ask this very interesting thing about having 19 producers on board. So I think I saw some article from like last year or something, it said 15, but then it kind of got few more producers. So how did that happen? I mean, this is very unheard of. Like people are always struggling to find producers. Obviously, you made a very good film. You deserve even like 100 producers, I would say. But yeah, so how did this happen?
I mean, in making indie films in India is an extremely challenging prospect because of it's very difficult to raise the money, and we have on the one hand in India we don't have the government support that maybe in the 80s people had like money call and so on. There was
Right.
some support, but now that is dried up. So we have to depend entirely either on private equity of people's money, or we have to go through the grant cycle and find co-production, international co-production, and both have their own challenges. For when it's raising money from private equity, there's immense risks involved because it's not easy to distribute the film later or to recover that money, and films are expensive. So it was out of this reality that Naren kind of devised this, which also happened very organically. It wasn't, thought out at the beginning. That if we spread the risk very equitably and equally among many people who came together because they believed in the film, then it served two things at once. On the one hand, it built a community that really helped the journey of the film, and it also addressed the needs of each part of the journey. For example, Sid Mir coming on board as the colorist and taking care of that part of the post production, or Shaunak Sen and um,
Prashant.
Prashad Nair, who kind of were very helpful, giving us feedback on the script and the edit. Or there would be Vikram and Nikhil coming on at a much later stage, but who bring their whole network of contacts and their heft in terms of pushing the film forward and trying to find its audience in India later. So at each point, the people came on board to address a certain need that we were having. So at the beginning, we didn't always have, now it's 19 producers. In the beginning, it was one, and then there were two, and then there were three, and the last two producers came on board, just before Berlin and in Berlin. So it has kind of evolved in a way that has been addressing the gap that we face as independent filmmakers in India, and also addressing the need of this particular film at different stages of its production.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's also nice that people see potential in certain films and come on board, which because now a lot of independent films are being made in India, obviously, and going to festivals like whether you talk about All We Imagine Is Light or Sabar Bonda. Like I also had the chance to talk to the director of that film, and we were also talking about independent films and distribution and all these things. So, like you said, there was this time when, in the 80s and all, NFDC used to fund a lot of films, and
Yeah.
it became much easier to tell a lot of different kinds of stories and experiment with different kinds of stories. But yeah, now things are a bit different. But yeah, so we will come to that later. I also want to touch upon this topic of, how social media kind of helps spread awareness about independent films, which I, being in the social media space for a while now, and trying to boost awareness about independent films myself, so I have some things to ask about this. But now I have questions for Tilotama finally. So Monsoon Wedding, so this Rohena Gera's sir, and then obviously now Baksho Bondi. So you have played roles where you're portraying working class women. So then there's contrast with love stories too, where you are kind of confronting your house help, and you are in the other side of the spectrum of sorts. So since you have been on both ends of the spectrum when it comes to how different classes are in India in terms of how women work, or if they're house helps, or if they're doing uh, jobs that gain them money like on a daily basis. So have you had any personal revelations or learnings about classism in general that you have had? while playing these roles?
I think I have a sense of, I've developed a sense of great distaste and an allergic reaction to comments that have talked about my performance or portrayal of women of the working class as some kind of expert, or when there are comments like, you really, that's exactly how a maid is, you really captured that. And I know it's meant to be a compliment, but it angers me so much, because these kind of comments make one feel that there's a homogenized sense of a particular profession. And somehow, we just want to paint a certain class with that sameness and call it authenticity. I think it's just a terrible, terribly classist comment, and I became very aware. I couldn't understand initially because it's given to you as a compliment, as if. But I think it made me aware that I think I need to step back. I need to really reassess the choices I have made, and because they're made with so much time apart, you really don't think that you're perhaps portraying a particular class or a particular profession more often than others, because there are years in between. Monsoon Wedding, case in point, 2000. Sir, post-pandemic, 2017, 18, 19, it came out. That's 18 years apart, right? And yet, when I hear such things, it made it very clear to me that I would like to push myself, even if it means sitting at home without work, to play more diverse parts, because I do not want to make my money of portraying or becoming some kind of expert of a class that I don't belong to, and it just felt wrong. And it angered me that it also gave then filmmakers an excuse to think I could not portray any other class. And I had to sublimate that anger, because anger is so useless and it's so toxic, and with no real it eats you up. And it's just something that I became aware of. Because I became aware of it, I then started looking, talking, asking to play characters, that allowed my filmography to have a diversity. Because I'm neither the rich nor the poor. So I am the vast middle class of India and the vast upper middle class of India. And I have a feeling that once I began to articulate this to myself and then to others, it started reflecting in my environment. And I think in the last 7 years, I have managed to play parts that are age appropriate and diverse in terms of representing the social class, the different professions. My patalok, I'm a cop. My God, thank you, Sudeep Sharma, so much. Thank you, Konkona, for and we've talked about this. And I think Coco was also very aware of this cross that I carry, and it was very important for her that I played the role of Ishita, not because one can't play Seema or that Amruta can't play Ishita. It is just she, as a friend, was aware of this anger, was aware of this despair, and she could respond to that, by giving me this part to play, and that opened the way for many people else to reimagine. But it just makes you aware, right? That that as we are such creatures of habit, And once we see a person in a certain way, and what draws us sometimes to a performance is our own inner workings, our own inner life. Uh, and and so when we connect to something in the writing, the editing, the entire team has worked together to make you feel something, and you bring yourself to a story when you watch it. Um, but sometimes the language to describe it is that, oh, you got such authenticity to it, or as if like it is more authentic than the person itself, like and I think this kind of inflated hyperbolic language is sometimes does disservice to to what we are doing, because it's each character is unique, each human being is unique like our fingerprint. There are things that are very similar which cut across class and caste, and there are things that are very different because that's what makes us unique. And when as a film is made by people, a group of people that bring their individuality into it. So in that single moment, what you connect to is actually a plethora of things that have come together to make you feel something, and that feeling of authenticity sometimes is just a feeling of your own emotional connection, uh, because of who you are, and I would really like to play really like to play diverse parts. I'd like to play parts that make me uncomfortable. I'd like to play parts that don't set the needle back for us, and be able to play morally ambiguous characters, because we exist in a single day. I have gone through so many shades of who I am, and I'd like to play. I'd like to be able to defend these women, by playing them, with a sense of, I may not understand you entirely, but I'm curious, and that is what drives me, and that is what excites me. There's some women I do feel I understand them more because of my own mental makeup, and there's some that I don't understand, but I'm curious nonetheless about all of them. But yes, I'm sorry, it's a very long answer to your question of playing a certain class, but it's I'm just trying to.
No, I get that. I get that. I mean, it answers my question very well, because my question was about classism, and your response actually highlighted the problem that people have with understanding classism and typecasting actors because they have been doing a certain roles, not even doing, like, like you said they spread years apart, but they are significant roles, and then people remember and they tend to remember you in a particular way. So that is not correct. And the diversity I obviously understand, because I loved you in Patal Lok also. Yeah. Tanushree.
So like to
Also the
add,
idea, right, that there is one kind of like, do we say this often about a doctor?
have you done
Exactly.
the same operation? Did you always take out kidneys only?
Yeah. Or that, you played a doctor so well. It was just like how doctors are.
Are. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
No, we
Also,
don't. Sorry, Didi.
also no, but I also wanted to add, Vasundhara, this is I think you are also asking a question of distribution here. It's so interesting that there are so many other things that Tillotama has played, but people in India haven't seen those films. I mean, if we had seen her wearing that pagdi, paying that, that boy, girl, that, dealing
Kissa.
all that, yeah. If Kissa was on Netflix and everybody would have watched Netflix, they would have seen a completely different Tilotama. Having said that, also, if you actually sit down and break apart the girl in Monsoon Wedding, the woman in Sir, and the woman and the middle-aged woman in our film, these are three very different characters as people in their lives at their juncture. Like she's saying, just they happen to have the similar kind of profession.
Profession. Yeah.
That's it, actually. Nothing else is similar, which was actually what attracted us when we wrote Tilotama in mind. We were saying it was for us almost like that 19-year-old girl is now 40. For us, we were actually looking at cinema history as a collective consciousness to actually respond to Maya, in the sense of, imagine that girl then falls in love with this pahari at the age of 2021, which actually she does. She falls in love with that interesting man, no, like and now imagine that that man was in the army and goes through all kinds of hell, these two lovers, and today after 20 years they're here. So we were actually in my heart, because I loved that woman, that authentic woman, and I don't care what profession she was in. you know I just remember that electrifying smile and that personality that broke open the entire class system in that film also, in so many ways. And that's what attracted me to that woman, not that she was a maid. I don't care, she could have been a professor also, she could have been one of the women sitting there silently taking patriarchy in. That's what the other women do. They take those patriarchy in, you
Yes.
know. But so we also, as we viewers, we don't really look at things in a holistic way, I feel. So
Yes.
it's that also, yeah.
And the story of Baksho Bondi, I think it's very universal also, in the sense that it's about womanhood in general. So
Sorry,
especially
sorry,
in
please repeat that. It's about, what
uh,
did you say?
it's about womanhood in general, the story of
Mm.
Baksha Bondi, irrespective of her profession, like I said, especially in the Indian societal framework, where it's the woman who is the caregiver most of the time, and the women are the caregiver, but the men are also, like, bringing in the money or whatever. But in this particular case, the man is undergoing something which is preventing him from being the primary, like a breadwinner of the family. So the woman has to go out and do everything, and so she's kind of doing what she's expected to do as a caregiver, as well as earning money for the family. So it's a very well-rounded thing, and you cannot really compartmentalize it into one profession, is what I felt. So yeah,
Mm.
I mean to say, like, the universality of the character and the story as a whole, that appealed to me a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mm. Yeah. So you want to add something? So
No, yeah.
yeah. Um,
I want to add something that
mm,
that was very lovely, and the best part of, I think, Berlin for me was when Maya says the reaction that uh, these German women had to the line when Maya says, "Ami to manush," and that I too need to eat,
mm,
and the sounds that those German women made when that line came. They are sounds of uh, a universal cry that we too need rest. We
right.
too are human. We too
Mm,
need to eat, and that sense of being able to share across countries, across borders, uh, the sometimes the overwhelming sense of fatigue that women feel uh, while they are socially expected to take the larger chunk of caregiving at home, while they're also professionals who are trying to work in an extremely patriarchal world, and their own guilt, their own sense of responsibility, their own sense of exhaustion, and to feel that in an audience many miles away, uh, it makes you really feel like makes you feel I really felt the universality of the film sitting in Berlin,
mm,
that this is something that ties us together.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that is the best award or gift you can expect after, making a film, that it resonates with everyone, irrespective of time and space or whatever. Yeah. So I would like to finally ask this question that I had in my mind for a while, is the role that the internet or social media plays for promotions of independent films, because it's mostly like, obviously you're going to festivals and there are accolades and everything, but how important is the word of mouth thing when you are struggling with distribution, or how do you, obviously release of a film is another whole thing, so that is something that needs to be taken care of separately, like, but what I want to ask is, if you feel that there is a enthusiasm or interest among audience in general, and especially curiosity about your film, whatever the curiosity of generated through posters or teasers or whatever, so how does it help to push your film to the mainstream audience, basically?
I was just discussing this with Naren yesterday, and we were talking about how while one of the dangers of the age that we're living in is everything is driven by algorithms, and we end up with echo chambers, whether it's in your Netflix account or your social media post. You hear what you want to hear, and then there's a kind of a that gets buttressed more and more. But at the same time, it is also our best bet and our best tool to to um, to somehow find a way of surprising and breaking into that algorithm to kind of reach out to people who through word of mouth, through people just sharing things which is then not based on the heft of a big production house or a kind of advertising. It's much more personalized, and we felt this very strongly when a film we worked on as I was the cinematographer Tanushree gaffer on the film called Gode Ko Jalebi Khilane Le Ja Rahi Hoon, which was the dreams of the laborers of old Purani Delhi. And but when it released, it was a humongous effort on everybody on the part of the director and um, all the crew to reach out to everyone they knew, who reached out to everyone they knew, and but social media played such a big role in bringing people to the theater. And I think that finding a place of physical connect for an event to happen, for us to go, and which is the charm of a cinema hall, where you see a film with other people and then you come out and you've experienced something together. So I think the biggest challenge is how to keep that alive, how to keep alive us going together to be part of something. And it's actually social media that can get us out of our homes also in a strange way. It's a paradox, because it's also what's keeping us in our homes, but it's our best bet to get people out of their homes, because we are all human beings and we all eventually want to connect. So it is also how we kind of spread the word, how we make that happen. So we are realizing more and more as filmmakers that this is a very crucial part of the journey, because it has to address how do we find our audience at the end, and how to how to bridge that gap between a very personal and a film that we've made, but it could have a universal appeal. It could relate to many people, and how do we reach there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So one of the films that you have both worked on together is Ib Ale U, which is a film
Yeah.
I really like. I till date I recommend it to many people, because I think I watched it when it was in Mami, so there was an online section or something back. It was during the
Yes.
pandemic, right? So everything
Yeah.
was online.
It is the One World
So
Film Festival.
One
There were
world
yeah,
film.
many.
exactly. Sorry,
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
one word. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I always have that movie at the back of my mind somehow. And
Yeah.
but speaking of, bringing people out of their houses, I think things have undergone kind of a, I won't say radical shift, but some amount of shift because of the pandemic, and how everything is now available on OTT space. When you go to watch a movie in the theater, and in the beginning itself, they will say it will be streaming on Netflix or
Yeah.
Amazon Prime, and people then they will hear from their friends, okay, then okay, you just wait a month, it will come on Amazon Prime, it's like a
Mm.
one time watch, so you can just, those things. Now, so people have started focusing more on creating spectacles for the big screen, you know.
Yes,
It should look very grand, and that wasn't the case before. Like
yes,
now, even we are, as cinephiles, we are urging people to go and watch Superboys of Malegaon in the theaters, for example.
Mm.
And even that I watched in an almost empty theater. Okay, even in a weekend. So it's kind of sad. Like, is it not like people will go and watch films in the theater unless it's something grand and spectacular and high octane action or whatever? So, do you see this as going in a direction that is worse, or do you think it will get better eventually? Because, you know, watching in the theater is an irreplaceable experience, is what I feel. Like, you can watch n number of movies on your laptop or in your home theater, but that community experience is what makes cinema, right?
But
but
So
that's what I was also saying, that the fact, if you don't go to the cinema alone, you go with
yeah,
your friend, you go with
I go
somebody,
alone
and
most of the time.
yes, but if like what happened with the film like Godi Ko Jalebi Khilane Le Ja Rahe Ho is that when people went, they went also celebrating, community togetherness of, like you go with your friend because you want to show that friend the film, or you think that they will like it. And
Hmm.
so I think the fact that we crave for that connect in a physical space will mean that there's always a space for theater. We will always be for theater in what preceded film, but also in film theater. Because we need to go and witness things together, and that's part of it's a human need.
So,
One thing that hasn't changed is, for me, as someone who started acting at 19, that from 19 I've been hearing that cinema is dead.
yeah,
And that it's very hard to make a film. So, and yet here we all are.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
we are still obsessed with the idea of listening to a story,
yeah,
being a part of a story, telling a story. I'm not trying to whitewash over a very crucial, confusing time, but this is not the first time we have been here, and it won't be the last time. I think certain ways of functioning have to break down before new ways can start. Uh, and if it's breaking down, it's because it's time for some kind of introspection and of what the world is going through. And I think it's good. I think it's good to go through this discomfort, and I'm sure something um, it'll push us to really think about what we do and why we do it, and we'll find ways, because people can't live without stories.
yeah,
that's very true.
We will not know where to hang our existential crisis if there are no stories. So, but yes, it is. There is a crisis. There is no denying that, and we are responsible for it. We are part of it, and we are part of the problem. So, I really hope, and I'm very confident that we'll also be part of the solution.
yeah,
uh, and I'm very proud that our film has come out at such a time, and in response to such a time, where it's not a monolith of one big producer, a big daddy who is paying big, has a big fat wallet, so that a passion project, a labor of love can be made. It's actually 19 people, 20 people, 25 people, 30 people,
and counting.
40 people. But I think this model of filmmaking is also a response to this time, where the filmmaking is expensive to make, um, and extremely cathartic at the same time, an extreme community experience. So maybe we need to bring that community experience not just in the viewership, but also in the way we make it, the decency, the ethics with which we mount a film, so that it could be something, our industry could be populated by people who belong to families, who have children, who have other interests. And it is a more humane place to work, where the hours of working reflect the sensitivity of the stories that we are trying to tell. And but for all that to happen, the way things are need to be dismantled, right? And we cannot be crying over the dismantling and crying over the problems. I feel that is so I don't know. That's so counterintuitive for me. I feel like, yes, things are not working because we need to find a new way of working. I'm not saying our model is the way. I'm saying it's a response to this crisis. It is expensive, but we want to tell the story because we relate to this story. And what can I do to be a part of it? And it's 100 people taking one step forward, rather than one person taking 100 steps forward. And I'm very proud, and I'm very proud, and I to be a part of this kind of model at a time like this, because we love stories and we need them for our survival. And I hope I can be part of many more such endeavors, even one in which I'm not acting or playing the lead, because when I think of Anjali Patil or Jim, actors who are also our producers, who um, became part of the story, not to gain some flex as producers. It's simply because they believed in Tanushree and Somo's story and they wanted to be a part. I think it's a huge learning for me. And I'm glad we are going through this in my lifetime. When I started did my first film, the next film I did, the world went digital. And people were so scared of that change. That it's going to end everything. You know, it didn't. It transformed. So I look forward to this transformation, and I look forward to being an integral part of it. By being able to transform the way I work, the way I look at my work, and the way I can collaborate with other people and learn more, so that we can come out of this crisis looking back as something uh, precious, that we were able to pivot and not break. We had the flexibility to let go of old ways of working. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there are different ways to look at what is happening, but the best way forward is to be optimistic and embrace the change and believe that something good is going to come out of it. That's always the way forward. Okay, so I think yeah, we have to wrap up now. And once again, thank you so much for your time. It was an absolute honor talking to all of you, and I look forward to both of your films. Next film, whenever you make one, I hope you have some ideas in mind. And obviously, Tilotama, I'll keep following your work. What?
I'm also waiting.
And I hope you also get to work in Konkana's next film and she doesn't ditch you.
She doesn't ditch you, she said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much. Have a nice weekend ahead.
Thank you, Vasundhara. Thank you so much.
And happy
Thank
Women's
you.
Day.
Happy Women's Day, of course.
Yes.
Happy
Yeah.
Women and Sensitive Men's Day.
Both very important.
Both very important.